It's results day in the Palestinian territories. 12 years of school boils down to one number. And your mark is no secret. Every student in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip have their results published in the newspapers, announced on the radio and television. For thousands of high school leavers, this is the day that will determine the rest of their lives. Despite two bloody intifadas, intense civil unrest and an ongoing occupation, life in the West Bank most certainly goes on. Education is very important in Palestinian society, and like most things here, the system is strained. But there are definite cracks, and I've come to find out what they are and why the Palestinian Authority isn't doing anything to fix them. Mais is an 18-year-old student living in the West Bank city of Ramallah. She has just finished her Tawjihi exams and has high hopes for good grades.
I'm just very stressed because I'm waiting for my result to come out on Thursday. It's a bit scary because I just don't remember how I did in my exams, and I'm just waiting, hoping for the best, you know.
Students sit 2-hour exams for each of the 10 subjects they have chosen. Usually, only half of the students sitting the exams pass. If a student fails just one exam, their Tawjihi journey is over.
You sometimes mess up the whole exam, not because you did not study or something, because there's too much pressure on you. You're just nervous. You feel like there's not enough time for you to think, to breathe, to just write everything down.
برافو. وإيش هي؟ برافو. إيش هي؟ شو اسمه هذا؟ برافو.
Dima is a chemistry teacher at Mais's private school in Ramallah.
When you say that I'm a teacher, they say, good for you, you don't work a lot. They don't understand the responsibility of being a teacher.
Palestinian society is ancient and complex. Christians have been here since the time of Jesus, and Jerusalem is the home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Islam's third holiest site. Both Muslim and Christian 18-year-olds are subjected to the Tawjihi.
A Tawjihi exam is a test, theoretical test, that examine what you learned in the Tawjihi year, not in the 12 years that you study in the school, only in the Tawjihi year, which is the senior year.
It makes me feel helpless because I am studying and I'm trying very hard, and still the system, it puts a lot of pressure on any student, whether they were good or bad.
It is a year that takes the student backward maybe 3 or 4 years. In other classes, we try desperately to make students think on their own. In the Tawjihi, we tell them, stop whatever we said before and just concentrate in what the book says. Even if sometimes there is some wrong information, we tell them, study it as is.
It's very stressful because you have to memorize everything, and if you forget something, it will affect your mark, and so your mark will affect the rest of your life.
Al-Qatan is a Palestinian educational research and resource centre. Its office in Ramallah focuses on teacher training, curriculum evaluation and research into the Palestinian education system.
And they think that Tawjihi is like a point where their future will be decided upon the grade or the score that they have. The Tawjihi score is a sacred score for all the business around the area here. And if you want to go to work after you take your bachelor degree, the employer will ask for the Tawjihi exam. If you go to enter a university, they put like more than 60 or 70% value on the Tawjihi score.
It would be a good mark if I got 90, 95, something like this, but I don't think I will.
If you finish your PhD and you want to come back and to have accredit your certificate, they ask for the Tawjihi exam. So everything here is about Tawjihi. It's not related only to education. So
Mais is already looking past university and hopes for, among others, a career in art therapy.
I have lots of dreams. I have lots of things that I'm planning to do. and it's hard to pick just one thing and stick with it. One of the things that I'm planning to do in the future is learn something that we don't have it here, but it's art healing. You know, it's basically, it's like a shrink is talking to someone, you know, just it makes you get everything inside of you out. You know, some people, they don't know how to express themselves in words, or it's hard for them to speak about a problem or something, but if you just give them a brush or just tell them to color, and you would just take out a lot of things from them, you know?
Unemployment is high in the West Bank. Amidst the violence of the Second Intifada 6 years ago, 50% of the workforce were out of a job. The economy may be improving, with that percentage nearer 20, but prospects for young people without a university education are bleak.
Failed Tawjihi? Very tough question. For girls, it might be easier than guys, because for girls it could go to a secretary school, study for 1 year or 2 years and become a secretary. And guys can do that too, but usually a secretary is for a feminine position than male position. I don't know for guys, but guys, if they do not want to continue their studies, they could work in shops. What kind of shops? I have no idea.
I'm trying not to think about it. I'm trying to expect the worst, but I'm just, even if I say 70, I would just die, roll over the ground and just die. Because it's very hard. 70 or 75, no college will accept you.
Competition for university places is fierce, with acceptance based on your single Tawjihi score. Just 1 percentage point can mean the difference between success and failure. For the admissions department, however, this makes the process all the more straightforward.
There is no problem. It is a good exam. You know, the general certificate exams are good exams. They will send people who have been qualified to this university. But it depends on the school, how they teach, also how they teach people. I don't know how they will be manage the university well or not. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. After 1 year, if one, for example, registered in the engineering faculty, after passing 1 year, he will see if he is good or not. If not, he will transfer to another faculty that has an average lower than, of acceptance lower than the engineering faculty, for example.
But even within the same university, the merits of the Tawjihi system are debated.
If you ask me, does the Tawjihi give you a good representation about the achievement of a student at the university? The answer is no.
Because the exam is limited, the students do not think beyond their exam. They only think that we need to study this paragraph to be able to succeed in it. We don't care where did it come from and what is going after it.
The system or the achievement of the students in Tawjihi, there is no representation, there is no matching with his score to the matching and achievement in the university.
Most Tawjihi science students have never done a practical experiment before they arrive at university. Everything they learn comes from the textbook.
We think at Qattan Center that Tawjihi is leading the educational system. It is the educational system is a test-driven. And actually we are repeating what the United States and other countries are doing. They started with high-stake testing, and they figure out that it is wrong, and they are changing their system. Now we are taking the old systems and we are repeating the mistake.
During the summer, essential repair works are carried out at the schools before the academic year starts in September. But there are calls for the education structure itself to be rebuilt, and not just the school walls. The Tawjihi program is controlled here in Ramallah by the Palestinian Authority's Ministry of Education, an unpopular exam with students, teachers and educational experts alike. I've come to find out why it's taking so long for the politicians to change the status quo.
Yeah, I think there is a problem with the Tawjihi exam. Tawjihi exam is a very old exam. I think it related maybe to the Britain from very old one. We used to call it at that time matriculation, and the changes that it happens for this exam, it is very little or very slight.
Up until 2006, the tests were based on the Jordanian curriculum. Now anything published in the textbooks authorised by the Palestinian Authority is fair game for the test.
Maybe when you go to the street, you feel that the majority, they want to make changes in the Tawjihi exam. That's true, but the alternative is not so clear for them. So we are trying to propose some kind of a new form, and this is to be discussed here in the ministry, and afterwards to be discussed also in the universities or in the public here in public worships, for example.
Rote learning is still there in the schools, and it's emphasized by the testing and by the curriculum and by the teacher himself. The teacher is required to finish the textbook on time in order to be tested. So they are running, they are rushing, and there is no time for reflection and for students to have their own role in creating the knowledge or in participating with the knowledge.
There should be a new and fit and a way to evaluate the students according to the new curriculum, which has not happened.
What's stopping this happening now?
Such an exam, if it needs to be changed, it should be discussed not only inside the ministry, it should be discussed inside the ministry and with the universities, and it should be also approved from the cabinet. We can't make changes like this. It is a major change. It should be approved from the cabinet, and also we should reach to a substitute that it is very realistic and acceptable. Up to now, the alternative is not so clear.
Biggest problem is now, first of all, the approach that the Ministry of Education is taking in order to improve the quality of education, and the definition of quality that was adopted by the Ministry of Education is related to achievement and scores. And this is actually does not represent quality.
We have textbook in Tawjihi is translated version from English text. We need scientists who write science, not to translate science.
It looks more and more as though the Tawjihi problem is just the tip of the iceberg. But the problems are so ingrained into the system, it's hard to envision some sort of magic formula that will have any real impact. Teachers are also in crisis. Palestinian women play very traditional roles at home and are expected to complete all their domestic chores after work. And for a breadwinning man, a teacher's salary doesn't go very far.
Other jobs, yes. Not only one, another 2 jobs. Because a man that has the biggest responsibility in the house, $600 can't pay his rent. So he needs to find another job. Yes, of course. If you're a woman, married woman, it might be okay because in addition to your salary, there's your husband's salary, so it might be okay.
Because of the economical situation in general and the low salaries of teachers, the reputation of the teaching profession is really down, and it has been long like this.
The Ministry of Education's budget is second only to that of national security, and a substantial part of it goes on teachers' wages and not educational development.
We believe here in the ministry that to make a quality of education, you have to first have access. Before access, you can't talk about quality. Talk about access, then equality.
The wall that separates the West Bank from Arab-dominated East Jerusalem restricts employment opportunities, and the checkpoints that litter the West Bank can slow routine journeys by hours. Israeli settlements like this one can be identified by their red roofs. Their roads crisscross the West Bank and are off limits to Palestinians. 38% of the land in the West Bank is reserved by the Israeli government to serve the settlements. This translates into a system of checkpoints, road closures and the war. But what impact does this have on students here? I've come here to Birzeit University to speak to the students involved in the Right to Education campaign, to see what they say it's like to be a Palestinian student at a Palestinian university.
I'm studying physics with minor mathematics. I'm from Hebron, and when I come here to study in Birzeit, the road from Ramallah to Hebron take 40 minutes or 1 hour. But because all alternative roads and the checkpoints and all of that, road take 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. It depend upon the mood, soldiers' mood on the checkpoint. So when you know that the road is 40 minutes and it takes 3 and 4 hours, you cannot go. You can't go. And after I reached Birzeit and studied physics, there's no equipment, there's no tools, there's no labs. There's many of missing to have a good education here.
At this Right to Education campaign conference, students have come from all over the world to talk about the Palestinians' restricted access to education as a result of the Israeli occupation. Students from Gaza share their experiences via video link. And a former detainee talks about the thousands of Palestinian students in Israeli jails.
Holding you in captivity seem no older than the arrested youth. Other times they might be even younger. Interrogators will jeer at prisoners, lie about testimony, and give Zionist narratives of history, and even put on acts like good cop and bad cop to demoralize and crack the prisoners for information.
The occupation doesn't allow us to get the latest and sophisticated equipment. Now, in their taxation or in their costume, they are hindering us of purchasing a new system from abroad, and they confiscate it.
But no one is critiquing the Palestinian Authority.
Israel controls the government. That's this is a fact. Israel prevent the government to do many of things. So the government now don't like to try to do some things, you know. And from the beginnings, Israel prevent all of things. So now the government don't want to try to do some things for the educations. I think that, you know.
Palestinian time is highly unpredictable. It's not just ordinary Palestinians that are subject to checkpoint delays, with government ministers often hours late to meetings, having been held up en route by Israeli controls within the West Bank.
We don't control our time, we don't control our plans, we don't control the budget, we don't control the training, even we don't control the access of the students to the school. Sometimes you go to the school, you find it closed within 1 week or 2 or some days before, because the Israeli, they make kind of curfew on the city. So it's not easy for us to make all of our arrangements, to implement all of our arrangements, whether it's administrative arrangements or it's technical, because of the occupation is not easy for us.
The education budget is determined by the Palestinian Authority, who in turn rely heavily on donations from the international community. And all too often, these donations come with very specific strings attached.
Some of the students, they ask us to make the Tawjihi exam within 2 terms, in the first semester of the school year, scholastic year, and the second semester. And easily I can say that if we do this, it means that we have to double the budget of the exam. Instead of 40 to be 80, for example, or instead of 50 to be 100 million Israeli shekel. This is not easy for the Ministry of Education to do this.
But having listened to the frustrations about the occupation, it would be easy to heap the blame on the Israelis for the problems within the education system of Palestine. But I just don't think it's good enough for the students that it's failing now. Surely there must be a will above all others to get the universities, schools and the ministry together to raise standards.
It's simply something that I'm passionate about, and I've always dreamt of doing something and having something as my career is something I love. Unfortunately, there's no such thing as studying art here. So I'm gonna have to choose something else. But basically in my college application, I wanted to guarantee that I would get into Birzeit, so I put my choices. I put one of the lowest marks ever, you know, anything to study, and later on I can switch to whatever I want. Yeah.
And Mais isn't the only one unable to study her first choice at university. I've come to talk to students at an-najah National University in Nablus to find out how much of an impact the Tawjihi had on their future.
اسمي علي شناعة بدرس بايوتكنولوجي سنة ثانية. أنا عرسان دويكات من نابلس، خلصت فيزياء إلكترونية من هون من جامعة النجاح.
اسمي ليلى أبو عياش، سنة ثالثة، بدرس بايوتكنولوجي.
مرحبا، أنا أحمد علاوني من نابلس، بدرس جامعة نجاح وطنية رياضيات بيور ماثماتكس.
يعني كنت حابب إنه أكون طيار، بس طبعاً المصاري ما خلتني إني أدرس طيران. طبعاً فيش هون طيران أنا كان نفسي أدرس هندسة أو اتصالات، بس المعدل ما حققش الشيء اللي بدي إياه، فدرست علوم وتخصصت فيزياء.
أنا من أول التوجيهي كنت بدي أصير عالمة أحياء بحرية، بس طبعاً التخصص مش موجود ببلادنا، فالأحياء لا أنا مبسوطة كثير إني دخلت أحياء.
طبعاً الفشل بولد النجاح، يعني الواحد فشل في التوجيه مش معناته انه نهاية المطاف، بس بعتقد انه لو فشلت في التوجيهي راح اعيد التوجيهي وراح اعمل احسن من هيك، يعني احسن ما انا كنت متوقع لحالي. يعني انا الحمد لله ما ولا مرة فشلت في شغلة من شغلات حياتي، بس بعتقد انه راح يكونوا بجنبي لحتى اتخطى هاي المرحلة، انه مش يعني عائلتي مش نفس العائلة اللي مثلا فشلت انت واحد فاشل انت اشي، بس بالعكس بيوقفوا جنبي وبيساعدوني عشان المرة اللي جاي ويكون احسن يعني اذا فشلت اكون احسن في المرة اللي جاي.
What would your family say if you got like a 60 or something?
I'm just trying to imagine the shock. Would be horrible because even if they made a big deal out of it, it is a big deal, and even if they just fought with me or something, what's worst is them not saying anything, or just to know that I disappointed them. That's horrible enough for me. That's a punishment enough for me, you know. Then I disappointed myself, of course, which is very important to me. I try to keep myself together because I know myself. If I start crying, I will never be done. It's very stressful.
For the students and their teachers and their families, I think it's the beginning of a new life or the ending of their lives. Yeah. Especially if we're talking about a student who wants to continue his university studies. If he wants to go to the university, he needs to get a good mark, a very good, an excellent mark, to be able to study in our universities. Or else, he has to go to work at a very early age, and that's not very welcomed in our country.
It's results day for Mais and her classmates at Al Ahliya school. The students and their families have been here since 7:30 this morning. Everyone is eager to find out how they've done.
The problem is you have your average mark. Everyone is interested at your average, not specification. Because when you go to the university, they care about your Tawjihi mark, not the mark you got in chemistry or in physics. Even if you want to study chemistry, they really are very interested in the other marks.
78.
78. What does this mean?
This is means middle. Yes, it's not good. Fairly good. No, because Thank you.
What will you study at university?
IT. ايش معنى هندسة ميكاترونكس؟ Engineer and science. One of them.
I'm so surprised, so proud. She's got it. Yeah, she's my daughter. She expected this. She expected between 92 and 95.
Others have not been so successful. Mais comes in with her sister to collect her certificate. She has not received the mark she wanted.
We call for something else instead of the Tawjihi exam. And we think that the Tawjihi exam actually doesn't represent the performance of students, the actual performance of the students during his life of study, during the 12 years. But the situation is very complicated, and I think it is very difficult to eliminate the Tawjihi from the system. The system here is not only related to the education, to the Ministry of Education. It's not a decision for the Ministry of Education to take alone.
There should be another way more than a Tawjihi. There should be another way. We must look for another way.
If we want to make it in two terms, it means we are going also to double the risk. Because sometimes, you know, the Israelis, for example, it happens that the Israeli surrounded Nablus some years ago. And we had to repeat at that time the Tawjihi exam in Nablus for 4 times.
The long tradition of the Tawjihi exams and the public nature of the results announcements have together made sure that the tests are a staple of modern Palestinian society. And with no one taking any real responsibility for their future, it's unlikely that this will change.
احنا عايشين ورا سجون البنود اللي سجنيننا ما يتغير مش حاسين ولا نور الا سياج منها احنا شايفين سما لونها ازرق غيمة ابيض بالنص نجمة ذكرى كنت بغير انا صامد عايش متفائل ما تعزل مني الامل بيجي ضار فاصل السور يدور انا مربوط فلسطين كجنين لحبل الطابور بالارض جذور شجر زيتون ضل يتولد وتجدد خصور ممدود للسلام معروض لاحتلال ما يريد استسلام ليه انا اللي ما إله حرية لاني انا رافض اني اعيش بعبودية